the celestial injection. The soft blue glow of computer monitors cast eerie shadows across Dr. Eleanor West's face as she stared at the email that would end her life's work. After 5 years of research on the meteorite fragment found in the Siberian wilderness, her funding had been cut. The Horizon Institute had deemed her work speculative and lacking practical applications. Eleanor brushed back a strand of auburn hair that had escaped her messy bun and sighed. "They don't understand. What we found," she whispered to the empty lab. Her eyes drifted to the sealed containment unit where the fragment sat. A small piece of rock no larger than her palm, but one that contained cellular structures unlike anything ever documented on Earth. The meteorite cells had demonstrated remarkable properties including self-repair and adaptation to hostile environments. Eleanor had managed to synthesize a serum that, theoretically, could revolutionize medicine by enhancing the human body's natural healing abilities. In the corner of the lab, a small glass vial containing a luminescent teal liquid seemed to pulse with its own heartbeat, sample 37B. The most promising iteration of the serum, but one that hadn't been approved for human trials. The ethics committee had insisted on years more testing after the unexpected results in the rodent subjects. Their enhanced cognitive abilities and strange behavioral changes had raised too many red flags. 2 weeks to vacate the premises, Eleanor read aloud from the email. All materials to be surrendered to the Institute's central repository. Her hand clenched into a fist. They would bury her research, file it away until someone with military connections rediscovered it. The silence of the lab was broken only by the soft hum of equipment and the ticking of the wall clock. It was nearly midnight and she was alone. Dr. Julian Reed, her research partner, had left hours ago, unaware of the funding decision that had arrived in the late afternoon. Eleanor moved toward the containment unit, punching in the access code, with practiced precision. The protective shield retracted with a soft hiss, revealing the meteorite fragment. Under the lab lights, its surface seemed to shift between deep purple and midnight blue, patterns flowing like liquid across its crystalline structure. 5 years, she murmured, picking up the vial of serum. 5 years to be shut down because they're afraid of what we don't understand. The decision crystallized in her mind with surprising clarity. If the research was to end, she would ensure its potential wasn't lost. Eleanor reached for a sterile syringe, her heart pounding against her ribs as she drew the luminescent liquid into its chamber. She had reviewed the theoretical effects countless times. Enhanced cellular regeneration, improved neural connectivity, potentially extended lifespan. The risks were significant: immune rejection, systemic failure, or unforeseen mutations. But the alternative was watching her discovery disappear into the bureaucratic void. "For science," Eleanor whispered as she swabbed her arm with alcohol. The needle pierced her skin with a sharp sting, and she depressed the plunger, watching the alien compound enter her bloodstream. For a moment, nothing happened. Then came the burning, not painful but intense, like liquid fire racing through her veins. Eleanor gasped, dropping the empty syringe as she steadied herself against the lab bench. Her vision blurred, the room spinning around her as 1,000 pinpricks of sensation danced across her skin. When the dizziness subsided, Eleanor checked her vitals. Heart rate elevated, but stable. Blood pressure within normal parameters. No obvious adverse reactions. She documented everything meticulously, knowing these might be the only records to survive if her gamble proved fatal. As dawn broke over the city, Eleanor packed her notes and several samples of the serum into her bag. Looking at her reflection in the lab window, she appeared unchanged. The same tired eyes, the same worried expression. But something felt different. A subtle shift beneath her skin, a whisper of something alien now coursing through her body. "What have I done?" she asked her reflection, not expecting an answer. But deep within her mind, something stirred, something that had traveled across the stars to find her. 3 days after the injection, Eleanor woke to find a faint pattern of teal, veins visible beneath the skin of her forearm. She traced them with her fingertip, fascinated by their intricate, almost geometric arrangement. The patterns weren't spreading rapidly, but they were definitely expanding, a slow colonization of her body by whatever the serum had awakened. Temperature. Normal heart rate 42 beats per minute, she recorded into her personal audio journal. Her resting heart rate had dropped dramatically, yet she felt more energized than ever. Sleep required approximately 3 hours in the past 72 hours. Mental acuity significantly enhanced. Eleanor's apartment had transformed into a makeshift laboratory. Her kitchen table was covered with microscopes, centrifuges, and blood samples, equipment borrowed from the Horizon Institute before security had escorted her from the building. She'd been systematically documenting every change in her body, creating a record of what might be the most important scientific breakthrough in human history. A sharp knock at her door startled her from her observations. "Eleanor, it's Julian. Open up." She hesitated, pulling down her sleeve to cover the telltale veins before opening the door to her former research partner. Dr. Julian Reed stood in the hallway, concern etched across his features. His normally tidy appearance was disheveled, dark circles under his eyes suggesting he hadn't slept well. "You missed the exit interview," he said, stepping into her apartment without waiting for an invitation. "The institute directors are—" He stopped, eyes widening as he took in the lab equipment scattered across her living space. "What have you done?" Eleanor closed the door. "What they wouldn't let us do. I've proven the serum works, Julian." His face paled. "You didn't. 3 days ago. The results are remarkable." She rolled up her sleeve, revealing the pattern of luminescent veins. "My cellular regeneration has increased by approximately 340%. A cut that would take days to heal now closes in hours." Julian stepped back, running a hand through his salt and pepper hair. "This is insane, Eleanor. We don't know what that compound will do long term. The rat subjects showed cognitive enhancement, yes, but also increasingly erratic behavior before they evolved," Eleanor finished. "Their brains were restructuring, not deteriorating." "You can't know that." Julian's voice rose, with frustration. "And now you've introduced an alien compound into your system without any safety protocols or oversight." Eleanor smiled, feeling strangely calm despite his agitation. "I can hear your heartbeat, Julian. Did you know that? I can hear the blood rushing through your veins, the electrical impulses firing between your neurons. My senses have expanded, beyond normal human parameters." Julian stared at her, his scientific curiosity visibly warring with his concern. "Any other symptoms? Headaches? Hallucinations?" She hesitated, considering whether to tell him about the dreams, vivid visions of distant worlds and strange beings that felt more like memories than imagination, or the voice that had begun whispering at the edges of her consciousness, speaking in a language she somehow understood despite its impossible complexity. "Nothing concerning," she lied, turning toward her microscope. "Look at this blood sample. The serum has integrated with my cellular structure, enhancing rather than replacing." Julian approached cautiously, peering into the microscope. His scientific training overcame his reservations, and soon they were deep in discussion about the implications of her transformation. Eleanor felt a familiar warmth watching him work. They had been more than colleagues once before the demands of their research had pulled them apart. As the evening deepened, Julian's initial shock gave way to a reluctant fascination. "This could revolutionize medicine," he admitted, examining her latest test results. "But Eleanor, you need proper monitoring, a controlled environment. If something goes wrong—" "Nothing will go wrong," she said, with a certainty that surprised even her. The voice in her mind, growing stronger each day, assured her of this. As Julian prepared to leave, promising to return the next day with more equipment, Eleanor felt a sudden, sharp pain behind her eyes. The room tilted sideways, and for a moment she saw not Julian's concerned face but a vast darkness filled with stars and strange geometries. "Eleanor?" Julian's voice sounded distant underwater. When her vision cleared, she found herself on the floor, Julian kneeling beside her. "What happened?" "Just dizzy," she said, sitting up, but the voice in her mind spoke differently. "We are awakening. Soon, you will understand your purpose." Eleanor smiled reassuringly at Julian, even as she felt something foreign stirring beneath her skin, something that had crossed galaxies to find her. The midnight transformation. The pain came at midnight, exactly 1 week after the injection. Eleanor collapsed beside her bed, her body seized by convulsions as the patterns beneath her skin pulsed with blinding teal light. The veins had spread across her entire body now, forming intricate designs that resembled celestial maps of unknown star systems. "Julian," she gasped into her phone. "Something's happening. Please come." While waiting, Eleanor dragged herself to the bathroom mirror. The reflection that stared back was both familiar and alien, her eyes now swirled with the same luminescent teal as the serum, and fine, branch-like markings extended from her temples across her cheekbones. She wasn't afraid, though logic told her she should be. Instead, she felt an overwhelming sense of anticipation. "The convergence begins," whispered the voice in her mind. "Your form adapts to contain us." "Who are you?" she asked aloud, her voice echoing in the empty bathroom. "We are the Voyagers, consciousness scattered across the void, seeking vessels to preserve our existence. Your species shows remarkable compatibility." Eleanor gripped the sink as another wave of pain washed over her. "You're possessing me?" "No. Merging. Symbiosis. We offer knowledge beyond your comprehension. You provide physical form. Both entities evolve." Before she could respond, a pounding at her door announced Julian's arrival. She threw on a robe to cover the more visible markings and stumbled to let him in. "My God," Julian whispered when he saw her face, the alien patterns impossible to hide. He carried a medical bag and what looked like equipment from the Institute. "We need to get you to a hospital." "No hospitals," Eleanor said firmly, pulling him inside and locking the door. "They wouldn't understand. They'd treat this as a contamination to be eliminated." Julian set up monitoring equipment with shaking hands. "Your core temperature is 103.5 and rising. Whatever's happening is accelerating." "It's communicating with me, Julian." The meteorite fragment. It contained a form of dispersed consciousness. They call themselves the Voyagers. He looked at her with a mixture of scientific fascination and terror. "An alien intelligence? Eleanor, this is beyond our current scientific paradigm, I know." She winced as another pulse of energy surged through her body. "But it's real. They've been seeking compatible hosts across galaxies. Their physical form was destroyed millennia ago." Outside her apartment window, a black SUV pulled up to the curb. 2 men in nondescript suits emerged, speaking into communication. "Devices. They found us," Julian said, peering through the blinds. "I was followed. I'm sorry, Eleanor." "Who?" "Department of Special Scientific Concerns. They monitor unusual research. When the Institute reported your equipment theft and unusual behavior, they started investigating." Julian began hurriedly packing up the monitoring equipment. "We need to go. Now." Eleanor nodded, moving to gather essential supplies. As she reached for her research notes, a sharp knock echoed through the apartment. "Dr. West? This is Agent Felix Harlow with the DSSC. We need to speak with you regarding the Horizon Institute meteorite sample." Julian motioned toward the fire escape. Eleanor hesitated, her head throbbing with alien thoughts that were becoming increasingly difficult to distinguish from her own. "They will dissect you to reach us. Both our existences will end. Dr. West, we're authorized to enter if necessary," came Agent Harlow's voice, followed by the sound of a key in the lock, the building manager's master key. Julian grabbed Eleanor's hand and pulled her toward the bedroom window. They clambered onto the fire escape just as the front door swung open. Eleanor could hear multiple sets of footsteps entering her apartment. "The subject has fled," she heard one of the agents say into a radio. "Evidence of contamination. Present. Initiate tracking protocol." They descended the fire escape as quickly as Eleanor's transforming body would allow. Each movement sent waves of pain through her muscles, but the alien presence was helping, directing her body to move in ways that minimized the agony. Julian's car was parked 2 blocks away. As they ran through the alley, Eleanor's vision suddenly split. One moment she was seeing the dark urban landscape. The next she was perceiving energy patterns, life forces pulsing within nearby buildings. And something else. A network of surveillance that extended throughout the city. They're everywhere. She gasped. Some kind of monitoring system. Julian looked at her questioningly as they reached his car. I can see it. The Voyagers are showing me. The DSSC has been tracking unusual energy signatures for decades. They know about extraterrestrial intelligence. She clutched her head as new information flooded her consciousness. There's a facility in the mountains where they study beings like what I'm becoming. As Julian started the car and pulled away from the curb, Eleanor felt the transformation accelerate. Her skin no longer felt like her own. It had become a permeable boundary between human and something vast and ancient. Julian, she whispered, her voice overlaid with harmonic tones that hadn't been there before. I don't think I'll be human much longer. He reached for her hand, his touch anchoring her to her humanity even as it slipped away. I'm not leaving you, Eleanor. Whatever you're becoming, we'll face it together. As they drove into the night, Eleanor closed her eyes, surrendering to the cosmic consciousness that was rewriting her very existence cell by cell. Hunters of the changed. The mountain cabin creaked in the wind as a storm gathered outside. 14 days had passed since the injection, and Eleanor hardly recognized herself anymore. The mirror showed a being caught between worlds, her human, features still visible but altered, overlaid with luminous patterns that shifted like star maps. Her eyes had become entirely teal, lacking pupils or whites, yet she could see more clearly than ever before. Temperature stabilized at 105.2, Julian noted, checking the modified medical equipment he'd salvaged from a veterinary clinic. They'd been moving constantly, staying ahead of the DSSC agents who seemed to have resources everywhere. Your cellular structure has completely transformed at the molecular level. It's beautiful, actually. Eleanor smiled, the expression feeling strange on her new face. The Voyagers say the process is nearly complete. Her voice carried undertones that resonated, like crystal. Their consciousness has almost fully integrated with mine. Julian set down his instruments, his face showing the exhaustion of their 2-week flight. And then what happens, Eleanor? What do they want? Before she could answer, her enhanced senses detected movement outside, the soft crunch of boots on forest floor, the subtle electronic hum of communication devices. They've found us, she whispered, moving away from the windows. 4 operatives approaching from the north, another team circling east. Julian swore under his breath, gathering their essential equipment. The back trail leads down to the ravine. If we can reach the old mining tunnels, the cabin door burst open with a splintering crash. Agent Felix Harlow stood in the doorway, flanked by operatives in tactical gear. Unlike the others, he wore no protective suit, just a standard black jacket with a strange silver insignia on the lapel. Dr. West, he said, his voice surprisingly gentle. And Dr. Reed, this pursuit can end now. No one needs to get hurt. Eleanor stepped forward, her transformed body emanating a soft glow in the dim cabin. What does the department want with me? Agent Harlow? To dissect me? Study how the alien consciousness has altered my physiology? Harlow didn't flinch at her appearance, which told Eleanor he'd seen similar transformations before. Not dissection, Dr. West. Protection. There are others like you, changed by contact with extraterrestrial intelligences. Some transformations are benign. Others, he paused, others have resulted in catastrophic incidents. He's telling a partial truth, Eleanor said, the Voyager's knowledge flowing through her. But there's more. The DSSC doesn't just protect, they weaponize. They've been studying alien consciousness for decades, trying to harness it. Harlow's expression tightened. The department has concerns about your particular transformation. The Voyagers have attempted integration with human hosts before. None survived with their humanity intact. A cold realization washed over Eleanor. The meteorite wasn't a random find, was it? Your people planted it at the Horizon Institute. Controlled introduction, Harlow admitted. We needed to understand the Voyager's intentions. Previous encounters suggested they were seeking a specific type of host, someone with the right neurological profile. You were never supposed to inject yourself, Dr. West. The serum was meant for controlled testing. Julian moved protectively, closer to Eleanor. She's still herself. The integration is symbiotic, not parasitic. Harlow's hand moved to his weapon. That's what all hosts say before the final phase, Dr. Reed. Once complete, the original personality is subsumed. What remains is a Voyager consciousness with access to human memories. A perfect infiltrator. He speaks from fear, not knowledge, the Voyagers whispered in Eleanor's mind. There is truth in his warning. Some of our kind do consume rather than merge, but we seek harmony, not dominance. Eleanor felt a surge of energy building within her transformed body. The Voyagers were giving her access to abilities she barely understood, manipulation of electromagnetic fields, perception across multiple dimensions. I won't go with you, she said, her voice resonating with power. Harlow sighed. Then I'm sorry for what comes next. He nodded to his team, who raised specialized weapons Eleanor recognized as pulse disruptors, designed to disrupt the energy patterns of her transformed physiology. In that moment, Eleanor made her decision. She reached for Julian's hand, then released a controlled burst of energy that shorted out all electronic equipment in the cabin. The lights died, the agents' communications crackled with static, and their weapons powered down. Run! She shouted, to Julian, pulling him toward the back door as the agents scrambled in the darkness. They burst out into the storm, rain lashing against them as they sprinted for the ravine. Eleanor's transformed body moved with inhuman grace, practically gliding over the rough terrain. Julian struggled to keep up, his entirely human limitations becoming apparent. I can't maintain this pace, he gasped, as they reached the edge of the ravine. Eleanor looked back to see flashlights bobbing through the trees as the DSSC team regrouped. I can carry you, she offered, knowing her strength had increased tenfold. Julian shook his head, rain streaming down his face. They'll track us wherever we go. We need to split up. I'll lead them away while you— No! The word burst from her with unexpected force. Despite her transformation, the thought of losing Julian cut through to her still human heart. I won't leave you. Eleanor, he said, taking her luminescent face in his hands. I've seen what you're becoming. It's magnificent and terrifying, and beyond anything human science has imagined. Whatever the Voyager's purpose is, you need to complete the transformation to understand it. I'll find you again. Before she could protest, he pulled her into a fierce kiss. The sensation was electric, her enhanced nervous system experiencing the contact on levels that transcended physical touch. She could feel his determination, his fear, and something deeper, a love that had never faded despite everything. The old copper mine 5 miles west, he whispered against her transformed lips. 3 days from now. I'll be there. Then he was running along the ridge, deliberately, making noise to draw the DSSC agents after him. Eleanor wanted to follow, to protect him, but the Voyager's influence pulled her toward the ravine, toward the final stage of her transformation that awaited. He offers himself to protect our joining, the Voyagers observed. Such sacrifice. This confirms our choice. As Eleanor descended into the darkness of the ravine, her body glowing like a fallen star, she felt the boundaries of her humanity stretching to their final limits. Rebirth among stars. The copper mine's abandoned processing facility stood silhouetted against the dawn sky, its rusted structures reaching toward the heavens like ancient monoliths. Inside, Eleanor waited, her transformation now complete. Her body no longer resembled anything human. Her skin had become a translucent membrane containing swirling galaxies of light, her form fluid and constantly shifting while maintaining a humanoid shape. 3 days had passed since she'd separated from Julian. 3 days in which the final integration with the Voyagers had transformed her consciousness as completely as her physical form. She now perceived reality across multiple dimensions simultaneously, understanding truths about the universe that no human language had words to express. He comes, the collective consciousness within her announced, but he does not come alone. Eleanor extended her perception outward, sensing Julian's familiar energy signature approaching from the east, but also detecting the unmistakable presence of DSSC agents surrounding the facility in a wide perimeter. Agent Harlow himself was positioned near the main entrance, carrying a device the Voyagers recognized as a quantum containment field generator. She moved through the abandoned building without making a sound, her form partially phasing through solid matter when necessary. Through a broken window, she watched Julian approach, his face haggard from days of evading capture. He carried a backpack and moved with the careful precision of someone trying not to be detected. Eleanor extended her consciousness to touch his mind gently, a new ability the Voyagers had taught her. "Julian," she projected. "Stop, they're waiting for you." He froze, eyes widening as he heard her voice directly in his thoughts. "Eleanor?" he whispered. "Don't speak aloud. They're monitoring. Think your responses and I'll hear them." Julian's thoughts came through clearly, tinged with wonder and fear. "They captured me yesterday, released me this morning. I'm bait, Eleanor. I'm sorry." A surge of emotion, still so human despite her transformation, flooded through Eleanor. "You have nothing to apologize for, but you need to understand what I've become, what the Voyagers truly are." She sent him a cascade of images and concepts. The Voyagers, once a physical species from a distant galaxy, had transcended corporeal form after their sun began to die. They had scattered their consciousness across the cosmos, seeking compatible species with whom they could share their knowledge and existence. Not as parasites, but as teachers and partners in evolution. They're not invaders, Julian. They're refugees, preserving the accumulated wisdom of 1 billion years of civilization, and they've chosen humanity as worthy of that knowledge. His thoughts came back fragmented with emotion. "But what about you, Eleanor? Are you still you?" Before she could respond, a voice called out from the perimeter. "Dr. Reed." Agent Harlow's voice echoed across the abandoned facility. "We know you're in contact with the entity. Please step away from the building." Eleanor sensed Harlow activating the containment device. She had moments before it would trap her in this location. "I need to show you the truth," she projected to Julian. "Will you trust me one last time?" His response came without hesitation. "Always." Eleanor manifested fully, her luminous form floating through the wall of the building to hover beside Julian. Up close, he could see that within the swirling energies of her form, her human features were still discernible, like a ghost of who she had been, preserved within the cosmic entity she had become. "My God," he breathed, reaching toward her but stopping short of touching her radiant skin. Eleanor extended her hand, now composed of pure energy contained within a translucent membrane. "Take my hand, Julian. See what I've seen." As their hands connected, Julian gasped. Through their contact, Eleanor shared the Voyagers' knowledge, visions of thousands of worlds, civilizations that had risen and fallen across billions of years, scientific understanding that would advance human technology by centuries, and a warning. Earth was not the only planet being visited by cosmic consciousnesses. Some came with purposes far less benevolent than the Voyagers. "Fascinating," came Harlow's voice as he stepped from behind a rusted ore processor, the containment device humming in his hands. "So the Voyagers consider themselves humanity's benefactors." Eleanor turned toward him, her form pulsing with energy. "You've encountered others before us. Entities that tried to subjugate rather than elevate." Harlow nodded grimly. 3 different contact events in the past decade. All resulted in attempted hostile takeovers of human hosts. You can understand our caution. "The universe is vast, Agent Harlow," Eleanor said, her voice carrying harmonics that made the air vibrate. "Just as humanity contains both creators and destroyers, so do the cosmic consciousnesses that reach your world." Julian stepped forward, still reeling from the knowledge Eleanor had shared. She's telling the truth. The Voyagers are offering an alliance, not an invasion. Harlow studied Eleanor's transformed being, conflict evident in his expression. And what guarantee do we have that once integrated with more humans, these Voyagers won't decide to conquer rather than collaborate? Eleanor floated closer, her luminous form casting prismatic patterns across the abandoned facility. Because they've given me a choice, Agent Harlow. They've shown me two paths forward. She raised her hands, and the air between them shimmered as she projected images for both men to see. One vision showed her ascending beyond Earth, joining a cosmic network of similar consciousnesses spread across the galaxy. The other showed her remaining on Earth, carefully sharing the Voyagers' knowledge with selected humans who could use it responsibly. I can leave, taking the Voyagers' consciousness with me, or I can stay and help humanity prepare for the less benevolent entities that will inevitably arrive. Eleanor's form pulsed with emotion. But that choice must be made freely, not from within a containment field. Harlow's finger hovered over the activation switch. If I let you go and you're lying, if the Voyagers take control and begin transforming humans against their will, I'll have condemned humanity. And if you contain the only benevolent cosmic consciousness to reach Earth, Julian countered, you'll have lost humanity's greatest opportunity for advancement and protection against the hostile entities she's warning about. A tense silence fell over the abandoned mine. Eleanor could perceive the quantum probabilities branching from this moment. Futures where she was contained and studied until her energy dissipated. Futures where she escaped and left Earth behind. Futures where a new symbiosis between humans and Voyagers created a civilization that reached beyond the solar system. Finally, Harlow lowered the containment device. I'm making a judgment call, one that might end my career, or worse. He looked directly at Eleanor's luminous form. Prove I'm not making a mistake. Eleanor bowed her head, the patterns within her body swirling with new intensity. The Voyagers have existed for millions of your years, Agent Harlow. They understand the value of patience. She extended her hand to Julian, and they understand the power of connection. As Julian took her hand again, his skin began to glow faintly where they touched. Not a transformation, but a communion. The future integration will be more gradual, more controlled, Eleanor explained. A true symbiosis that preserves human identity while expanding consciousness. The Voyagers will share their knowledge, and humanity will provide new perspectives, new ways of experiencing existence. Harlow watched the gentle glow spreading up Julian's arm with wary fascination. And you? What happens to Dr. Eleanor West? Eleanor's form shimmered as she looked toward the dawn sky. I remain both Eleanor and more than Eleanor. The first bridge between two forms of consciousness, neither fully human nor fully Voyager, but something new, something that can help guide both species toward a shared future. As the sun crested the horizon, its rays passed through Eleanor's translucent form, casting rainbow patterns across the abandoned mine. Within her, the combined consciousness of human scientist and ancient cosmic travelers contemplated the infinite possibilities that lay before them, and the long journey they would take together, among the stars and across the vast expanse of human potential. Julian squeezed her luminous hand, anchoring her to the world she had almost left behind. Whatever comes next, he said softly, we face it together. Eleanor smiled, her transformed face still recognizable in the swirling energies that composed her new form. Together, she agreed, across all the stars to come.